Yo, listen, I know I'm usually very hyped about this, but I just had to start off a little soft this time, baby. We back! We better than ever. We could be heroes, baby. You know what it is. Your boy John Toronto's here to talk about a little bit of something different this week. We usually do the Marvel thing, but something else came out that we promised we'd be talking about too. Star Wars. You know what it is. The Bad Batch. The Bad Batch. It's the bad boys up in here. They're killing it. Episodes are great. We're excited. We're ready to be here. Of course, we're here with my little brother Matthew Toronto. How you doing, little bro?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. It's been a while. I think 3 weeks in total since we've had this bit of partnership going on. So I'm
Mm,
excited to be back and just
too
talking
long.
about any hero related content.
Hero related
So
content. We know, listen, we have a little bit of anti heroes to go over, I think, at this little bad batch. It's heroes, but maybe some anti hero with it too. Look, I first want to apologize that we've been gone for so long. There's been much content that's been out, and Matt and I kind of discussed doing what we call phases. Of course, in homage to the MCU, there phases of these Bad Batch episodes. Of course, we have Loki coming out June 9th, right?
that's
And
correct.
we'll definitely be going on a weekly basis for that. Movies are going to be coming out like crazy for the MCU. We just had that video announced that showed all the soon to be projects that are coming for this year, next year, and I think 2023 as well. Um, but we're here to talk about some Star Wars. We're going to be doing this in phases. So this is phase one of the Bad Batch series. We're going to do every few episodes. We'll just do a Bad Batch episode, focus specifically on Star Wars or any Star Wars content that we have. Obviously, Mandalorian and the Book of Boba's coming, but we're here, man. We're here. We're excited. I gotta be honest with you. I did not watch all of the Star Wars Clone Wars series, but I did watch all the main episodes that little bro told me to watch. So I've become more of a
Beautiful.
Star Wars fan as far as like the canon and the content. I would say in the past few years, maybe when the sequels came out. I mean, I always watched the Star Wars movies, always loved them, but to dig deep the way I do with Marvel, just started doing that. I'm loving it. I'm loving all the connections so far in the Bad Batch, and we're ready to get into this thing. So, Matt, I know you were really excited about it being a long first episode, and I think all of us were. I definitely was, and I loved it. What are your first impressions? What are your first impressions of the Bad Batch series as a whole? Very
Yeah,
similar to Clone Wars, different, its own entity. What you think?
I would say a combination of both, right? I mean, this can easily be labeled as an unofficial season 8 of Clone Wars. Realistically,
I
it's
like it.
definitely an extension of what season 7 um, concluded on in many ways. Sort of the rise of the Galactic Empire with the fall of the Republic. But what I definitely enjoy about the series thus far is they're definitely diving deep into how the Republic did transition into the Empire. Um, there's a major gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. We have a few films and projects here and there like Solo and Rogue One that reinforce the tyranny that the Empire imposed on planets all across the galaxy, but we never saw that transition taking place before our eyes.
Right.
So to have the Bad Batch be at the forefront of the show and to see it from their perspective, a group of defective clones who were not even affected by the inhibitor chip, other than Cross Eye, um, I felt was a very interesting direction to take, and it was a time in which the I felt Star Wars never really touched upon, ever.
Right.
Um, the only exception you can argue is maybe Fallen Order, Star Wars Fallen Order, the canon video game. But even then, I mean, that took place multiple years after Order 66
That was
occurred.
when the stormtroopers were a thing. So,
Exactly when Stormtroopers,
right.
exactly. So that's definitely what one of the more intriguing aspects of the series that I have a feeling they'll dive further deep into. But yeah, I mean the premiere especially I that was very very strong. I think every character is unique in their own way. And yeah, they're just a group of enjoyable people, and I really don't think the series could work without them. And this was just following a group of generic clone troopers. I cannot necessarily find myself being emotionally invested, but they are making attempts to have these characters be as appealing as possible. And this,
The
at the end of the day, this series is straightforward. I'm not expecting this to be the best Star Wars series out there. I'm just curious from a lore perspective what they are going to do in future episodes. So
yeah,
that's
I'm
sort of what
I'm
my
definitely excited for that too. So
perspective is on.
we don't really know. Are they looking to shake up the canon? Right. I think a lot of people have some theories if, as far as Omega, which is the female clone that was created. There's some things out there in terms of the clones themselves and when exactly did they decide we're cutting the clones off. I mean, we're going to talk about a little bit the third episode. You know, they're really pushing to move towards stormtroopers rather than the clones, right? And Crosshair really gave you a reason to think they shouldn't in that episode 3. You know, so I think there's a battle between maybe Admiral Tarkin, who's going to be seems to be handling the clone process going forward or the transition, and I can't remember the name of the original admiral. Oh my god, he's the biggest, one of the biggest admirals in Star Wars history. The guy who was there in the beginning, Matt, the older admiral.
Yeah, Grand Admiral Tarkin.
Tarkin's the younger guy, right? That showed
Nope,
up.
the older. Grand Admiral Tarkin is the older one who
Okay, so
appeared in New
Tarkin,
Hope.
who's the younger guy that came in episode 3?
Um, oh my goodness, I think it was like Admiral. He was an admiral. Um,
I can't remember his name. It's the younger fellow
uh,
who's gonna, seems like he's going to be handling the,
yeah,
the the
he was
clone
the one who
process
was
going forward.
right. He was the one who issuing chain codes in episode 2, but then he was given
Right, right.
full control over the new
The
project,
Kaminoans,
aka
essentially.
the Covert Orb Squad,
Right,
Covert Op
right.
Squad.
Exactly. So, you know, just to see the battle and the internal battle between what seems like both of them, they don't, you know, should we stay with clones or should we not? You know, clones have no choice but to be loyal. But you know, the argument of the younger fellow, which I would love to grab his name whenever he can. Um, you know, the goal of him is to have true loyal people that chose to be a part of the empire, that chose to be a part of the movement, right? Because motivated people in that sense are stronger, which we do see throughout all of I'm sorry, Star Wars canon. Stormtroopers suck. Like they can't hit a shot. I mean, they're not good. I think that was the whole point of why they were that bad is they moved away from the clones. So let's get through the episode though. So we start off with episode 1. Obviously, it was a 70-minute episode. Um, right before I almost want to say I feel bad for loving the fact that Order 66 has been shown in multiple ways now, because obviously it just means the murder of Jedi. Uh, but we saw again another instance of Order 66. We see uh, a current battle in the Clone Wars going on the planet that they're on, and the Bad Batch is recruited by none other than Caleb. Which,
Of
man, I know you
Doom.
want to get into that for a second. Caleb Doom. Obviously, he brought the Bad Batch over to help fight. Order 66 was implemented, and Depa Bilaba, I think his name is the
Yep.
other Jedi.
Weird
Uh,
pronunciation of the name, but
I
it's yeah.
man, that's a word and a half. So obviously, she was gunned down. Caleb went on the run, and then the Bad Batch went to look for him. So Matt, so I know you mentioned this is in private between us. A little bit of a shift in the canon for Caleb.
Oh, major retcon.
Because I know we
So
have obviously with Rebel, so it's like a retcon before like the actual thing. I mean, technically this is before
it's
Rebels anyway, right? So
it's a retcon of the comic, but fits perfectly in line with the character we end up seeing in Rebels. So
okay,
to go more into detail, there is a comic specifically dedicated to when Kanan was a Padawan. There's an instance where the adult version of Kanan was unfortunately shot. I'm not fully aware of the comic. I haven't read it myself, but he was then put inside this huge, um, almost like I think like septic tank, if I'm not mistaken. You know the same one that Luke was in Empire Strikes Back, and the one that Darth Vader was in
yes,
Mustafar.
yes,
I think it's called the septic tank. And then he started having flashbacks to his past. So when he has flashbacks to his past, Order 66 occurs. His master says, "Run, Caleb, run," etc. The main issue is that the Bad Batch were never present in that comic. So the death of Kanan's master was meant to further the development of the Bad Batch as they have to deal firsthand the repercussions of Order 66. I have no issue with that.
right,
I do have an issue with the fact that they could have used any Padawan or Jedi Master for that scene.
right.
Literally anyone. You can make up any name, realistically speaking. There was no reason to put Caleb there, so I definitely understand the frustration for those who were a fan of the comic, only for that to be because it's retcon entirely. Like there's no explanation. I mean,
Right.
the only explanation they can bring is maybe actually there is none really. I mean that's canon now. They just sort of took away the comic. So I don't know if Disney is just a bit reluctant to have connections to Legends or to comic books in general because they have a feeling sort of audiences who watch Star Wars more than likely don't read any external material. So you want it to
Well,
have, and this is weird. I disagree because I think you can honor both, right? I mean, you
so
can,
that's just kind of what I speak to. You got to remember who's running this now, right? It's Disney. So Disney, when it comes to Marvel and the MCU and with comics, they what I think they're starting to do with Legends and the canon of Legends and the comics and the books, they're they're almost using it as source material, but making their own out of it, right? So they're maybe using it as like the base of what they want to do with the characters, but then changing some things up along the way. Now, a lot of fans are not happy about that, obviously, especially in Star Wars. They love
yeah,
being to the script, like to the T of what the comics or the books would show. So I think that's kind of what you're saying is, they're going off a little too much and they're not really honoring the story and the great
yeah,
story
it's
that's behind it.
right. It's weird. So it's different if they explicitly said this would be because Star Wars doesn't adapt. That's the thing to
Right.
remember. Star Wars. Here's what I like to think: Star Wars expands, Marvel adapts. Marvel can expand the wealth of characters they have within their confined universe, right?
Right.
But they use the comics to base off their storylines and make changes here and there because they don't own, well, now Disney and Marvel own the rights to pretty much every character than Spider-Man and his individual characters. But for Star Wars purposes, many books that are being written, especially ones as of recently that connect to the sequel trilogy, for instance, all of those are canon.
Right.
So I just don't see the purpose for retconning that particular comic with canon. Again, I haven't read the comic for myself, so I can't. So for all I know, I can absolutely hate the comic, and
Right.
I can say, "Thank
Maybe that
goodness you
makes
did
sense.
that."
Right. Right.
But I think, realistically speaking, it definitely lacked the emotion of the. Well, I wouldn't say it necessarily lacked emotion. For someone who watched Star Wars Rebels, I understand sort of Caleb's pain in a moment of time, especially when he has to essentially be on a run for many years,
Hmm.
essentially. I know Commander Gray in that scene, for instance, who was seen in the green armor. He had red armor in the. He was actually no, he was Captain Gray. He was a commander in the comic, and he had red armor as well. And I believe he also tried helping Caleb out as well. Didn't happen. I mean, the captain immediately aimed his weapon at Caleb's master. So
Right.
um, all of which again was just for to further the character development of the Bad Batch. There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. I
Right.
mean, you definitely have to make this character relatable and have a sort of follow in their footsteps.
I
But
mean, do you think I guess Disney has the pressure to you got to think I don't want to make this seem like a bad really say this in a bad way. The original or the OG Star Wars fans, they're getting older, right? I mean, they're always going to watch it, but they need new blood. They need new fans. They need to bring more people in. Creating their own story does that, right? Creating, stepping away from the canon because a lot of the new era fans or would be fans probably don't want to read a comic, probably don't want to read a book. They just want to watch the shows, right? So maybe that's the best way to do it is kind of change the stories up, mix up the canon a little bit, and introduce characters in a different way to attract those fans over. That's kind of this is
yeah,
my thinking. I don't whether that's right or wrong. I'm not really going to say. I
well,
would,
that's probably what Disney is thinking from their perspective. But
of course.
at the same time, there needs to be equal ground, right?
Oh
So
yes, yes, yes.
you know,
You need to honor the legacy of Star Wars, but you also need to find a way to continue that legacy by bringing on new blood that's going to want to
right.
continue it.
Like
So
I mean, I have no issue with them because a legend is very dangerous to make canon. It's very dangerous for many reasons. It can
right.
literally break the canon of of current Star Wars. I mean, there's a Legends comic where Chewbacca literally dies. Sequel trilogy happened, so Chewbacca never died. Um, and I'm sure there are a bunch of other complicated stories as well. I mean, I'm not even sure. Maybe even Star Killer is Legends. You remember that character?
Hmm.
Extremely overpowered. If he was introduced in the canon, that would literally he'd be arguably the most powerful Sith, Jedi, whatever you want to
He's
refer him as,
so
ever.
strong too. I mean, I would love that to
Um,
be. I would love to see, almost like what they do in DC with the separate movies that are in their own worlds or storylines. Like, I would love to see a Star Killer, either series or movie that based off of that game. Um,
yeah, I would want to base off the game, but not connected to the main. To the,
well,
oh
I
my
mean, if it
goodness,
was
that'd be
connected to the main thing, it explains a little bit of what Palpatine did. Obviously, they created force sensitive clones. I mean, so
I
like they're not going to do it.
um
They won't ever do it. I get it,
yeah,
but I'm
I
just
I would
saying,
hope not. I mean, maybe they have like a form of Star Killer, but I mean,
right.
here's what my philosophy is. I'm not trying to cause a massive debate, but the same people who want Star Killer canon are the same people who say Rey is overpowered. That's all
Fair
I'll
enough.
say.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with
So, in any case,
that.
that's sort of what my overall rant is. And again, I'm not overly frustrated. I
Oh,
still love Rebels. In fact, having Caleb there really, definitely moved me emotionally because I understand his pain.
and
As
it
someone
brought
who
things full
watched
circle.
Rebels in
I
detail.
think it brought
Yeah,
things
yeah,
full circle.
absolutely.
So,
Um,
um, just to get into, let's get back to the Bad Batch. So as far we have five of the Bad Batch, technically four, but then five again as we go through the episodes. We have Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Crosshair, and Echo. Crosshair has been, for some reason, his inhibitor chip, which is the chip that controls the clones for Order 66. Uh, Crosshairs works and the others doesn't for some reason. No explanation as to why that's the case. So obviously, throughout the episodes, we see Crosshair lean more towards the Empire, while the others want to really defend the Jedi. You see Hunter himself save Caleb from being killed by Crosshair. Um, Echo, I do remember. So pretty sure one episode you told me to watch. Echo has already gone through some kind of manipulation, right? Like, wasn't he kidnapped or something and then turned into like a
right.
robotic
So
clone?
he
Like,
exactly. So there is a Citadel arc, and I believe in that particular arc, Obi-Wan and Anakin um, were meant to be frozen into carbonite and then delivered to this transported to this planet. R2D2 also was to lead a group of sort of like overtaken battle droids, essentially, so they would be working for them just so they can, navigate their way around the Citadel. And they also had a fair share of troopers. I think Commander Cody was there as well as Captain Rex. They needed to. There's actually a Jedi that appeared in Phantom Menace that they had to save. Ahsoka came along as well against basically the orders of Anakin and Obi-Wan. But essentially, Echo was there. Essentially, Echo was attempting to distract the Hugh Stern firing at a getaway vehicle, so a getaway ship, we'll say,
mhm.
and it explodes. He apparently dies, so to speak. His helmet is seen. Flash forward to season 7, right? Because yeah,
Now,
jump
are they
forward to
the
season
Bad Batch?
7.
Are they officially considered the Bad Batch in the Clone Wars series, or they're just a group that's always together because they're the
No,
odd?
they're considered well. They're considered Clone Force 99, but they nicknamed themselves
Well,
the
right,
Bad Batch in
but
season
that was
7.
established in season.
That was in season 7. In
Did
season
they? So
7,
were they around before that though, or was
they
it
were
only
yes,
season
they have
seven?
always been around. Yes, they've
And
always been
like
around.
present, I'm saying though, like
Yep.
you've seen them in episodes prior to this.
Oh no, absolutely not. They made their first appearance within season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Okay,
Um,
was Season Seven
but
created? Is that
yeah,
the newest one created by Disney
that was the newest one created by Disney. But
to complete
what
the series, right?
right?
Okay.
But the group itself already existed in canon, so they've been around doing missions probably since, for all we can say, probably the beginning of the Clone Wars.
Okay. Fair
Realistically
enough.
speaking, so they're just defective clones who obviously have enhanced skills.
Right.
Each of them are
Wrecker super
it's fairly obvious.
strong.
Rick's super strong.
Hunter
Hunter has
ability
enhanced
to hunt.
senses.
Right.
Tech is incredibly intelligent. Crosshair is a keen sharpshooter, and then Echo, who was obviously the newest addition to the Bad Batch group, has a sort of almost like a droid link, so you can connect to various
Right. He's like a droid clone.
devices of sorts. Exactly. So
Right.
everyone has a droid link connected to
Right.
them at all
Right. Which
times.
obviously easy fit to the Bad Batch with that.
Exactly.
Um.
So that's sort of the explanation.
Okay.
But
That makes
I guess if
sense.
we were to sort of speak about individual levels and sort of what you mean for Crosshair as well, what I find the most interesting is definitely he makes for an interesting antagonist to the Bad Batch. I mean, it makes it more personal, makes it more grounded, and obviously with their new recruit being Omega, the female clone, which I thought was very interesting direction to take. Um, I don't know, can definitely make for some very wholesome moments, is definitely which has definitely happened. I mean, Omega's a very non-annoying character. Really,
She's very pleasant in a sense. You know, I
yeah,
do like the fact that um uh, that so what I didn't want to see was like the Bad Batch perceived as this bad group of clones, right? They were just they did things different, but never really did things bad. And I didn't want Omega to be like the balancing between the dark and the light. I want her to be this mysterious character for as long as possible till we figure out what she is, right? Where when it came to Grogu, for the Mandalorian, it seemed that Grogu was his like inner peace that calmed him down, type of thing. I don't want Omega to be that because that's just you're telling the same story at that point. I mean, yeah, it's a child and an adult again. Like it seems like every freaking Star Wars series now is going to have some kind of child adult, you know,
dynamic.
interaction or dynamic, right? Um, I don't want that for this. I hope that she literally has a deeper purpose. And one of my theories with that is she may be force sensitive.
More sensitive. I also agree.
And I just the way that they portray her, the animation around her, the sound and music play when she speaks, they're telling us something, right? The ambiance of the episodes in which she speaks and is a major part. There's something else in her. You can just tell, right? And we all know, whether we like it or not, in the sequel series, Palpatine was cloned. So Palpatine was cloned and he transferred this force sensitiveness. I don't even know what you call it.
I don't even.
Soul
I honestly,
or
I never
soul.
watched Rise of Skywalker. I
So
literally, I
essentially,
never
his
watched
soul,
it.
if you want
So
to call it, was transferred into one of the clones, right? One
that's
of the clones
so
being
yeah.
Snoke, and then actually him, right? Um,
Jesus Christ.
I
That's all I can say.
either way, I just
Ugh.
know when it comes to the clone stuff, when it comes to the Mandalorian and them, the midi chlorians, that's another thing I'm iffy about. But
Midichlorian is so weird. I feel
either
so
way, trying to
bad.
transfer like clone related, create force sensitive troopers or whatever the case is,
Yeah.
that this all kind of fits. If they're trying to tell the same stories of the newer content, maybe she's the first subject of what they're trying to do. Maybe she's the
Yeah.
first one that was
Almost
ever
certainly.
created that had the force
Right.
sensitivity and they were able to use.
And I would imagine probably Omega, the idea of Omega, we'll say, is probably a plan B for Palpatine. In the event
and
that
and that's
he does in fact end up
But I'm
dying,
not even sure
they
100%
have
that she's known to
force sensitive
Palpatine.
or known to Palpatine.
I
And
mean,
that's just yeah.
like, are the Kaminoans? Did they create her to be like their protector? Are they actually good? I'm not confident they're good. The Kaminoans. I think
Well, the
they're
Kaminoans
trying to.
also. Oh, sorry. I was going to say the Kaminoans allowed her to escape with the Bad Batch.
Well, I understand that, but that to protect her so she can grow into the Force beast that they want her to be and be their protector. I mean, they're clearly money motivated, right? They want to continue the clone program to continue to get
Right.
money for the Empire,
But
which the
yeah,
Empire explained themselves is too expensive.
yeah.
Which,
But
by
I
the
think
way,
deep down the Kaminoans more than likely know the Empire's evil intent. So realistically,
oh,
so I
I
have
know
a
that.
strong
So I
feeling.
think the Kaminoans are evil in that sense, right? So like my thing is though, what I'm really trying to say is the the Kaminoans have a purpose, and that purpose is just simply just make money off the Empire. And I love the fact that they're digging deep into like the little things like that, like the Empire saying, "Well, this is too expensive of a program. We can just get our own soldiers." You know, when it comes to transitioning, uh, how we always want to know how were Jedi tracked. Jedi for the most part, Obi-Wan especially, Yoda especially. Yoda went to a planet full of force sensitiveness or whatever the word is. So that's why Vader couldn't find him, or Palpatine. Uh, but the idea that Jedi were probably only caught due to those chain codes that they created, the chain codes that you need to have to leave a planet to fly in space.
Yeah,
That's how they were
absolutely.
caught. And who's to say when Jedi tried to do this and they got caught, that's when Vader sent the Inquisitors. or that's when Vader went when he found out
Yeah,
it was
because
someone that was super
it's
strong.
funny because even Tech says in the second episode as well that chain codes is not a matter of you having access to transportation, but identifying who you are. In the moment that you are flagged as an immediate threat to the Empire, you will immediately have your weapons drawn out and will probably be executed on site.
Executed, or those Inquisitors are on the way,
Yeah,
or Vader.
exactly. If they successfully identify you as a Jedi who is a known enemy of the Empire, then you are more than likely on the verge of death.
Well, and
Um,
then it's just so cool to see it because one thing I will say is it seems like in the original trilogy, the whole world forgot about the Jedi too soon, or the whole universe forgot about the Jedi too soon. What is it, 20 or 18 years between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope?
I think it's like 10 to 12. Honestly, it's not a
Oh,
lot actually. You'd
oh,
be surprised.
Kenobi is 10 years after
Kenobi
Revenge of
is
the Sith.
10 years
I think
after.
8 years. I think it's 18 years. 18 years
I think you're
between
right. Yeah, that sounds
Revenge of
about
the
right.
Sith, because I think Luke was 18 when he obviously started in New Hope. So
Right, exactly.
my thing is, does it seem like they kind of forgot about the Jedi that quick? I mean, yeah, they eliminated a lot of them, but there's still a lot of Jedi out there. You see it throughout Rebels. I mean, we see it throughout uh Leia's technically a Jedi as well. I mean, there's a lot of Jedi out there still.
Yeah. So
Ahsoka.
yeah, exactly. And the year gap, 19 years. So 19 years
Okay,
between Revenge of the Sith and
that makes sense.
A New Hope. Obi-Wan series takes place 10 years. Bad Batch honestly doesn't even take place a year after. I think it literally takes place as soon as Order 66 is
Oh, you
committed.
see it. Oh, yeah.
So
It's not
literally.
even you
So
think.
I
You
don't
see
even
them.
think now I can be wrong about this, but I don't even think Obi-Wan and Anakin had their duel yet. Did they have their duel yet, would you think? Like
um,
have the episodes taken place long enough to
at
where
this point
Obi-Wan and
so far,
because they haven't established
I,
a time.
I mean, it depends how many. I mean, you got to think after. Well, Kenobi had to go back to the temple. He had to see the video of Anakin killing the younglings. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe within the Bad Batch series, we see Lord Vader announced, right? So they're gonna officially say, "This is your new Lord. This is your, the one that runs the ship,"
Yeah, I
so
just
to
find that
speak.
very interesting because at the moment we don't know. I mean,
I
Vader
mean,
may not.
theoretically, not yet. There is no Vader
Yeah,
yet.
theoretically, depending on when this takes place. So they
Yeah,
haven't given us confirmation, but
right. I
we,
think we'll probably see that. I think we're gonna see
yeah,
the clone's perspective of hearing that Anakin's now Vader and running the ship now. You know what I mean? So we're gonna, whether it's an announcement via hologram or whatever the case is, people are gonna know that Vader's boss now. So that'd be cool to see too. I love seeing the transition, like you said. We speak of how they're trying to move away from clones. They want to get for whatever reason. I think clones are the best option. They're the best fighters. They have no choice but to follow what you say because they have an inhibitor chip that makes them do what you say. Um, I don't really get Tarkin's concern, or I guess Palpatine's concern of the loyalty. I mean, they're as loyal as you can get. Yeah, you can shut the ship down, but nobody really knows about the chip except what select few. Ahsoka knows, Rex knows because she turned him back to where he should be. Darth Maul knows. So few people. I mean, Omega, and I guess the Bad Batch knows now. Um,
so
I mean,
what makes me happy is the possibility of there being the Camino uprising, which is an event that took place in Legends.
yes,
I honestly want the Bad Batch to be the reason for why the Empire decommissioned clones entirely. I would love for that to be the case, to where you see, like what if Tech hacked into the system, manages to overcome the inhibitor chip technology to where all the clones, begin destroying Camino, and all we see is Camino burn straight to the ground. The
right,
Caminoans work done for, and the Empire having to resort to using regular soldiers or stormtroopers.
right.
I think that will make for a very interesting episode later down the line in the event they choose to canonize such an event. And I think it would be a very powerful moment too to show how these soldiers are not manipulated anymore. Like they can freely make decisions on their own accord without being sort of you know like I said manipulated essentially. I mean they are bred to do war, and they are bred to care for their brethren.
And it
But at
doesn't.
the end of the day, do they have a choice to abandon the responsibilities as a clone trooper? No. And that's the unfortunate reality, clones find themselves a part of, which
That's
makes it
what I
very
find
compelling.
so interesting.
Yeah.
It's why the need to go away from the clones. I mean, yes, a lot of the clones were very committed to the Jedi. You know, they, as the Jedi were generals for the Clone Wars, but you have every resource possible to make them never listen to a Jedi again. I mean, it's rare, as we see or have seen so far in the series and movies. There's almost no chance for clones to turn on the Empire. So what are you worried about? Wouldn't you want the better fighter? You know,
Money
and this money. So
is
and
the
I
only
love
concern.
it. Like some people might hate it. I love that they're starting to ground this the the canon, the world of
Yeah,
Star Wars is starting to be
yeah,
grounded, right?
it's
It's like
realistic. That yeah,
little things like money for war matter to an
yeah, because
empire.
the Empire
They can
has
only expand with that
yeah,
money.
exactly. Because I would imagine Emperor Palpatine, Grand Admiral Tarkin, Darth Vader, etc. They have no interest in continuing the clone trooper program if they are continual failures throughout. If they
Right.
can legitimately have, excuse me, if they can go out of their way to find regular soldiers who are just committed, like no matter what,
Yeah,
one
but we
is
see
not,
we see even in the sequels, don't know it's different than the than the Empire specifically.
yeah,
People like Finn can defect though. So like I just don't understand that perspective, right? That anybody can
yeah,
defect when
yeah,
things go
exactly.
crazy.
I mean, I would think from their perspective. I mean, I know there's an episode in Rebels, for instance, where Grand Admiral Thrawn was seen. I think he was on the. I want to say Lothal, I believe, but they were experimenting on this new kind of Tie fighter, which can easily destroy Rebel ships. And for instance, that could be sort of what they would rather put their money towards, is if they can sort of reduce the cost of making clone troopers by instead, hiring or forcing those to join the Empire. It would be much easier on them. And second, they can begin investing their time on legitimate steps to take care of any insurgents or anyone who poses a threat to the Empire, a
Right,
potential threat to the Empire.
right,
But I think mostly too, the Death Star is in construction as we speak. So
very true.
whatever they can do to reduce the cost and use whatever money they've earned, either by those who have acquired chain codes, or I think we've seen empires extort people as well, on multiple occasions. I would imagine, both in
Right,
comics, and I think maybe a few instances in canon too.
right.
um so it's very interesting to say the least for how the empire is making their attempts to have as much influence as possible within the galaxy, even doing something as simple as stealing someone else's money. I mean, it's fearful. I mean, at first glance, I mean, stormtroopers are not really that intimidating. I mean, they can't shoot objectively. I mean,
Yeah,
most of them can't even shoot a person,
right.
like a straight target. But for the most part, it's really inciting as much fear and intimidation as possible. Um, and Lord Vader ultimately represents that too. So if Vader were to appear in the show at some point, specifically against the Bad Batch, I mean, they will. I mean, they'll probably be protected by plot armor, but realistically speaking, they die. Like they're dead. I mean, they don't want another hallway scene, So I just find it very, very interesting. But what I do like is how, if we have a chance to see people rising against the Empire, we see Saul Guerrero on Alderaan, for instance, him and his insurgent fighters. Hunter obviously refused to kill any of them because they believed they were just simple separatist droids. Crosshair obviously still has this profound loyalty to the Empire because of his inhibitor chip, unfortunately.
Right.
Um, and then we also have the deserter Cut, um, on Salakamai, who with his wife, and his children, obviously wanted to get off world as quick as possible, despite having to acquire a chain code. So again, what I like is how they are making those kinds of connections to the Clone Wars, but are also hinting at what's to come in the future. So that's why I like about the series so far.
So let's get into this episode too. So we went over a couple things I want to go over as far as connecting to the Mandalorian and Palpatine and the clones, and as far as Omega and what we think she may be as the force sensitive, kind of thing there. So we get back to the LaQuaine family.
Yeah,
The LaQuay
Cut
family from
LaCrane.
the Clone Wars. One of the clones that wanted to defect, right? And so, I guess I had a question for you, which you may know. did did why didn't his inhibitor chip click in?
Um, I
Was he a Bad Batch essentially?
no, 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 no,
So
no, no, no,
I'm
no.
confused why
So
he
Cut
wouldn't.
LaCrane. So the origins of Cut LaCrane is that he was a clone trooper who openly deserted war. So what I would only assume is that since he completely got rid of any connection to the Republic, he was more than likely never issued an order because I would think so. I'm not sure how the inhibitor chip works. I would imagine that any sort of leading officer is obviously given a transmission from Emperor Palpatine to say you are to conduct Order 66. I'm not sure if every inhibitor chip is activated immediately. I think there are sharp delays.
Right,
I'm not aware of the technology, but I would assume that Rex. You remember, confirming that Rex had actually come to him to inform, "Hey, the Empire is coming.
right,
We need to get you and the family out of here." He more than likely helped him remove the inhibitor chip from him, just to prevent him from abandoning his family. Because if
right.
that chip takes over, he's definitely leaving behind his family to
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, 100%.
like hunt down any enemy of the state, right?
Right,
So I would, or enemy of the empire.
right.
So that's sort of what my explanation is. That maybe his inhibited chip was removed, or the fact that he defected so early and he settled down with a family
He never
that
got the
he can
chip at all.
completely omit the effects of the inhibitor chip. So there's
Yeah,
two possible explanations. But
maybe just
considering there wasn't like
straight
a
up brain
scar,
power.
yeah, exactly. But considering there wasn't a scar located on his head, we could presume that perhaps since he had deserted so early on and has really didn't have any more commitments left to the war, that he just, really hit the love for his family would always be more powerful than him, succumbing to the control of, really something that he cannot necessarily, fight back against if that does, fully take over his mind.
I agree with that. So as far as I just want a couple of thoughts that I saw throughout the episode. Definitely a filler episode, in my opinion. In a way, episode two. I mean, um, you know, it, there's always a good connection to LaQuaine and the family. Obviously, all the clones basically knew who he was. Rex knew him, and the Bad Batch obviously knew him as well. Um, I did like that Omega is like starting to finally see life for the first time. Like she goes and
Yeah.
sees dirt. She's like, "What is this? This is dirt. Like I've never seen dirt."
Hmm.
So that was really cool.
Yeah.
I
It's a wholesome
definitely,
moment.
yeah. I mean, she's a very likable character, believe it or not. Because I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of time characters like what her purpose is become very boring or just predictable. I
Yeah.
still don't know what her purpose is. Like we assume force sensitive, and this is what's going to really be the case, but maybe not. And that's really cool to like kind of have that perspective. Um, yeah, overall, I think that was a good episode. I liked again. That's when we officially found out about the chain codes and Imperial credits needed. You start to see little things that the Empire implemented to really establish their power and their hold on the galaxy. And it wasn't just it's not only to get Jedi, right? It's to have genuine order within the galaxy and to control all that is, right? I mean, there's still separatist groups out there you got to think about. There's Jedi, and then there's people that support the Jedi no matter what, and then now there's going to be the rebels. So in the end, you see the Imperial Army or the Empire as a whole, they have a long way to go, and we're seeing that transition live with clones still involved as well. I mean, where do we go from here? Do they kill all clones? Can the chip just kill them if they click a switch? I mean, we don't know. We don't know. There's millions of clones. Right? I don't know about millions, but there's thousands and hundreds of thousands at least. They were all
Yeah.
created for the war. They didn't just go away. So we'll see where that goes. We'll see where that goes. But, real
Oh,
quick,
I
oh, go ahead.
sorry. I just wanted to say that I have no idea why this popped to my mind when you're saying this, but um, actually, you know what? We can wait. You go right ahead. This will be sort of like later predictions that we can make or what we
Okay,
want out of
yeah,
the series.
yeah, for
So
sure.
you go
So
right
we'll
ahead.
get into episode three. I just had a couple notes as well. I did like, Admiral Rampart.
Yes, that
That
yeah,
was his name.
Rampart.
I have
Yeah.
it written down. I didn't think I did, but I do. Admiral Rampart is the younger individual that's going to be handling the clone program
Yep.
slash the transition to regular soldiers going forward. Uh,
Project Warfront is the name of the covert ops squad, correct? The Project
yes,
Warfront.
Project Warfront, correct.
Okay, perfect.
So, um, I love that throughout the episode they mentioned the inhibitor chip specifically, Omega, knowing a lot about it, which is interesting. I do want to see what she knows most about it. I think she'll know that that chip can kill, like maybe be the reason why the clones go away. I think she has some kind of understanding of how that works, and that's going to be really interesting to see. Um, Project Warfront is again, like you mentioned, it's basically essentially recruiting top talent for training with the clones. They want the clones to train these individuals who are already pretty trained in the first place to become the new Imperial Army. Um, I loved the fact, and again, going back to grounding and kind of grounding the Star Wars galaxy as a whole, that I can't remember the squad member's name, but the new elite squad, he mentions that the Empire, he doesn't really care how they go about things. He just likes that the Empire pays his bills, puts a roof over his head, and feeds him. I never just like you never think that way for Star Wars, right? You just think they're all soldiers that do whatever the hell you tell them to do, and that's it. And it's
Yeah.
really cool to see them in that perspective. Like, I'm only here because I get fed, I get paid, and I have a roof. Like that. Some people,
Yeah.
it makes you think
Realistically.
to real life sometimes, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
some people with jobs, just like, look, I need a roof, I need a bed, I
Who
need,
do they need to?
you
Yeah.
know what I
So
mean?
yeah, it's funny because I don't think they confirmed the names of any of the troopers themselves. I think even Dave Filoni realizes, or the overall, I'm not sure if Dave Filoni wrote any episodes for the series. I know he obviously created it. He's the executive producer, but
Right,
um, I think they purposely didn't give us their names for one reason. No, nobody cares enough necessarily.
right,
I think we're just more interested in seeing how Crosseye handles being in that position of power to where he can literally order each of these troopers to do his bidding or to do what is right for the Empire. Good soldiers follow orders. Um, and I honestly thought one of the troopers was Fennec Shan for a second, because I was confused. For instance, I thought like they used
mm-hmm.
her character model there. I was like, wait a minute, that actually makes sense. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she's an ex-covert ARC trooper who's responsible for hunting down anyone that poses a threat to the Empire. I mean, she's even ex-Imperial. If you remember all the way back in Mandalorian when they first established the character. So
Right.
I thought she was like originally a covert ARC trooper. Was definitely explains how she's so skillful with a weapon. Um, but that sadly wasn't the case. But we'll eventually see her. Though I just find it. I just love the idea of them. The fact that they are hunting down anyone. Maybe not Jedi necessarily. There are there are obviously Inquisitors for a reason.
Right.
There's obviously a Darth Vader or an eventual Darth Vader for a reason to handle any sort of Jedi responsibilities. Um, it's just I don't know. I really like this show just for the lore itself.
Yeah, I
It's
love
just
as far as the tension between the regular clone troopers and the soon to be stormtroopers. Um, I'm curious to see how those reactions go forward, right? Because in the end, the stormtroopers are going to be trained by the clone troopers. That's the purpose. I think that's the only reason why the clone troopers are standing today in this very moment in the
hmm
Bad Batch. I loved. Well, I didn't love the fact that they killed civilians, but I loved that Crosshair. It's Crosshair, right? Crosshair.
yep, Crosshair.
Yeah, Crosshair. He like ordered them to do the things that the Imperial Army did. So that it kind of goes back to confusing me because they're worried about loyalty, but they showed us clear as day that Crosshair will stay loyal no matter what and is willing to murder innocent people. So what exactly is the Empire looking for? Like what more loyalty do you need? Not only do you have the loyalty proven by Crosshair, you have the skill, the ability. I mean, wouldn't you just want to make more of him? I mean, why would you want, money? Again, I guess go back to money. But in the end, you could have, like, does Luke ever win with somebody like Crosshair? A whole army of him?
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, like,
you
think
have to
about it
remember
though.
that but there's only one Crosshair though, so they'd have
No, I
to.
mean, creating, not specifically Crosshair, but I'm saying the clones in general arguably are just as good as him. Maybe he's just more skilled at what he does specifically. But they're obviously better than stormtroopers. I mean,
Yeah,
if
I
the
mean,
Empire never switched to stormtroopers, I guarantee Han Solo doesn't get through half the battles he got through. I love Han, but we're talking like elite clone troopers. I mean, like this, you know what I mean? Do they get through with missed shots? There ain't no missed shots. That ain't gonna be the case. I don't know. This
yeah.
is my thing, and,
But
and
yeah, well,
people
I
people
mean,
love
you have to
Han, and
remember,
I'm probably
yeah.
gonna get shit for talking about Han, but whatever. Um,
I mean, is
so
Hanukkah a character? But that's just that's the point.
we can go into that another day for sure.
Yeah,
So look, I definitely love this episode. Overall, and I'll get a quick overall review of the episode and maybe a couple of theories. I know you had something that for prediction wise as well.
yeah,
I'm loving the series so far. Very similar to Clone Wars. Obviously, better animation. I'm loving the fight scenes, the battles itself. I'm very curious when it comes to Omega and what her purpose is and where she is going to be going forward, and who is she? And I'm also very interested to hear about this next phase by the Kaminoans. So I don't know if you remember the two main Kaminoans were
hmm
speaking at the end of the episode of today's episode. Uh, they said, well, we need to begin the next phase to prove to the Empire that our clones are better. And then they mentioned, Mr. Fett's DNA is not working for us anymore. Like we need other DNA. And I think
yeah.
they're going to try
His
to get the
theory
Bad
of
Batch's DNA. I think they're going to try to make more
cross.
specialized
They might end up
clones,
using cross. They might using elements of
crosshair,
Crosshair's DNA.
or they maybe they just capture the Bad Batch and use all of their. I mean, you got to think about it. What if they had a million of the Bad Batch, different skilled special ability clones? Like Wrecker's super strong. Crosshair can hit a shot from anywhere, anytime. I mean, maybe that's what the Kaminoans try to present to Palpatine, but then at the same time, maybe there's no inhibitor chip involved, and that's why he doesn't like it. Like, I think we're going to see all this in the next few episodes. So, I'm very excited for it. I think it's so cool to see this perspective. I love the in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. Like, I want to know as much as possible between that when it comes to uh Star Killer video game on the Wii, which isn't canon, but just to see that was cool. When it comes to Fallen Order and seeing what he went through in there as well, uh, I want more. I want more. We have Kenobi coming. It's going to be really awesome to see that as well. Who's to say Ahsoka doesn't show some flashbacks post Clone Wars? Maybe we see where does she go? What does she go through after the last episode of Clone Wars?
Yeah, we
Um,
never know, and
you
that's
never
sort of
know.
what I would want out of this series. There are three characters I want to definitely appear. Four characters actually. Commander Cody,
Hmm.
just so they can expand upon his character because he immediately gave in to Order 66 back in Revenge of the Sith.
Hmm.
Captain Rex for obvious reasons, as he clearly has a deep connection with the Bad Batch, specifically because of Echo.
Hmm.
Ahsoka, just to see where she is currently. The fact that she's well, actually, I wouldn't want Ahsoka in the show. That's not the purpose of the show. The purpose is to focus solely on having more quote unquote grounded reality with these troopers and having to
Right.
deal with the repercussions. I
Right.
would be interested though to see almost similarities drawn with Mandalorians. And a certain
Yes.
Mandalorian named Bo Katan, I would love to see make an appearance in the show. Just to see the aftermath of Mandalore, I think would be very interesting. Because
Agree.
remember, we didn't see the Purge of Mandalore yet. There are two purges,
Mm,
if you remember.
you're
We
right.
had one purge, which was around this time, so after Revenge of the Sith, when the Empire fully took over. And then we had a second purge, where after Bo-Katan was get the dark saber, they went to overtake Mandalore, only for the Empire to terribly defeat them again. So there are two like individual like, purges, so to speak. So I would love to see maybe a potential purge of Mandalore to have the Bad Batch maybe potentially involved to see if they can overtake the planet from the Empire. But obviously they will be defeated,
Right.
sadly enough. So I think that would be fairly a very interesting direction to take, just to see this to really solidify the fact that even with all their individual skill sets, the Empire is far too powerful for them. They have, they're involved in every facet of the galaxy, more so than they care to admit. So it's very depressing to put that into perspective. It's just It's sad.
Yeah,
It really is sad.
it is. It is.
It
But
is.
overall, I think the excitement is here. We're all very excited to see this era of Star Wars that none of us ever saw or touched. I do want them to pay homage to the original trilogy, but I also want them to expand on it. I mean, it so far, I feel like for the most part, maybe a couple things here and there that you didn't like, it has really enhanced the movies for me. The aside content, right? So the other movies, the
Yeah,
spin-offs and the series. I loved the connections between all of it so far, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. So
absolutely.
um I
I yeah, it is crazy. Like I
yeah.
will say though that without the Mandalorian, I would not be passionate for Star Wars. If the Mandalorian turned out to be absolutely terrible, I will never watch Star Wars again.
Yeah.
'Cause
I think
after,
Mandalorian
yeah,
is going to continue to be good as well. They're going to definitely move
yeah,
into the Mandalore next, and we'll get into that for sure. But
yeah,
we'll see with the Book of Boba. We have a lot of things to worry about. But look, I think we're running out a little bit of time here. I do want to say I'm loving this Star Wars content that's coming out. I'm so excited that we're here doing this, doing what we do every week. Of course, this is phase one of the Bad Batch series we'll be doing on the Weekend with Heroes podcast. We'll be back in a few weeks. My calculation, sometime around June 11th, which will be the same week as Loki as well. We'll be back with another 4 episodes to discuss the Bad Batch. Only doing this because the Bad Batch episodes are 30 minutes, and we want to be able to bring you guys good content for a decent amount of time, not just quick little snippets, right? So, look, as always, I do want to let Matt say goodbye to you guys and give you his social medias.
yeah. So Instagram Matt underscore T29. As always, thank you for watching. I know we've been gone for a little while, but at the same time, we want to keep producing content that's worthwhile to each of you. And as opposed, like similar to what John was saying, as opposed to uploading, like realistically speaking, there's only so much we can discuss in a 25-minute episode, including credits. So we would rather just divide it into 3 to 4 episodes per podcast, just to give our thoughts and sort of what that means for the future stars. But in any case, we still appreciate the support. You guys have been crushing it in regards to the views, the likes, and we sincerely
Can't thank
appreciate
you
it
guys enough.
so much.
Seriously, you guys have been killing it for us. Like honestly, you highest performing on OTS, and we're proud of it.
Yeah,
100%. So again, thank you guys. You can find us over at youtube.com/OTS guys. You can find all the podcasts, every podcast on there on video and or audio. Go to otsguys.com website. You'll find articles on any of this stuff as well. I mean, just check us out. Go to Facebook, give us a follow, give us a subscribe on YouTube, and just get ready for all this new content that's coming, baby. But of course, as always, it's your boy John. It's your boy Matt. We Can Be Heroes series. Oh, I'm sorry, phase one of the Bad Batch. We love y'all. Peace.
peace.